Top of the day, beautiful people. Top of the day. I'm bringing up the shimmer over here. Get my screen ready. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. Aliyah. Notice the wrench by your name, my brother. That's Papa Shayla. I wonder why it didn't pop up by your name. I'm gonna have to check on that, Shayla. I gave you a wrench too. I'm gonna have to check when we get off. I was learning how to use it. I still don't even know how to use it from the user's end. I gotta look that up. I just figured out how to actually give y'all the wrench, but I don't necessarily know how to use the wrench yet. So if y'all know, be free to use it if somebody start getting out of pocket in the chat box if we ever need it. Hopefully we'll never need it, but just in case, it's already in place. All right. Let's see. Adjust this. Let's see. What's this? I'm sorry, this my son was up here messing with my settings. I should have adjusted this. Hello. Okay. Shalom, shalom, Mom. Belinda Brown. Grand day, Auntie. Grand day, grand day. Veronica, shalom. Uncle Nathaniel, greetings, greetings. Okay, y'all. All right. Well, happy Saturday. I hope everybody got a chance to sleep in a little bit longer. I didn't, really. I really didn't. But I'm well rested, though, which it's a good thing, nevertheless. All right, y'all. So today it is April the 10th, 2021, day 7. I'm sorry, wrong day. Day 124 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. And of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 793. Remember, that is without the Sabbath days or the feast day, Sabbath days added in. Why? Because we rest. And tomorrow, because of this moon cycle, the Sabbaths land on Sunday. It will actually be the last Sabbath of this moon cycle. So they will shift again. And so remember, we're coming upon the new moon, so we got to be watching for it. And yeah. So we'll be watching for it just to make sure we get the day right. All right, y'all. Shalom, shalom, Demi. Okay, y'all. So let's go ahead and do the Shema. Then we'll go ahead and get started with the reading today. We're starting in 1 Kings 1, 2, and 3. Remember, the Shema is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6. Remember, read the whole chapter of Deuteronomy so you can keep it in its full context. What we're doing is just pulling out the meat of the morning blessing, the Shema, to remind everybody what we should be doing, right? Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah, the God of our fathers, has promised us, in the land that flows with milk and honey. Can I get everybody's attention? Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our God, He is one God. And you shall love Yahuwah your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children. And you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand. And they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah, our God, for our good always, that He might preserve us alive, as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do these commandments before Yahuwah, our God, as He has commanded us. Remember, y'all, I remind y'all from time to time when it says bind them for a sign upon your hand. Remember, the hand represents action, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, what you meditate on, what you think about. Remember, this drives this on your hand and on your head. Thoughts drive action. What you think about, what you meditate on, you will eventually carry out. What does Yahuwah tell us about that? We are to meditate upon his word. Why? That we may make our way successful before us. Because if we meditate on those things that don't help us, we're going to see that same outcome in our physical life, right? So we should be reminded of that daily. Repetition is always good. All right, y'all. So let's jump over here to 1 Kings chapter 1. Trina, Betwabu, blessings, Levon. Okay, y'all. 1 Kings chapter 1. David in his old age. King David was now very old. No matter how many blankets covered him, he could not keep warm. Hold on. All right. Let's see, the sun already shining bright. Peace and blessings, Kenneth. Okay. No matter how many blankets covered him, he could not keep warm. So his advisors told him, "Let us find a young virgin to wait on you and look after you, my lord. She will lie in your arms and keep you warm." So they searched throughout the land of Israel for a beautiful girl, and they found Abishag from Shunem and brought her to the king. The girl was very beautiful, and she looked after the king and took care of him, but the king had no sexual relations with her. About that time, David's son Adonijah, whose mother was Haggith, began boasting, "I will make myself king." So he provided himself with chariots and charioteers and recruited 50 men to run in front of him. Now his father, King David, had never disciplined him at any time, even by asking, "Why are you doing that?" Adonijah had been born next after Absalom, and he was very handsome. Adonijah took Joab, son of Zeruiah, and Abiathar the priest into his confidence, and they agreed to help him become king. But Zadok the priest, Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, Nathan the prophet, Shimei, Ray, and David's personal bodyguard refused to support Adonijah. Adonijah went to the stone of Zoheleth near the spring of En-Rogel, where he sacrificed sheep, cattle, and fattened calves. He invited all his brothers and the other sons of King David and all the royal officials of Judah. But he did not invite Nathan the prophet or Benaiah, the king's bodyguard, or his brother Solomon. Then Nathan went to Bathsheba, Solomon's mother, and asked her, "Haven't you heard what Haggith's son Adonijah has made himself king, and our Lord David doesn't even know about it? If you want to save your own life and the life of your son Solomon, follow my advice. Go at once to King David and say to him, 'My lord the king, didn't you make a vow and say to me, your son Solomon will surely be the next king and will sit on my throne? Why then has Adonijah become king? And while you are still talking with him, I will come and confirm everything you have said.' So Bathsheba went into the king's bedroom. He was very old now, and Abishag was taking care of him. Bathsheba bowed before the king. 'What can I do for you?' he asked her. She replied, 'My lord, you made a vow before Yahuwah your God, and you said to me, your son Solomon will surely be the next king and will sit on my throne. But instead, Adonijah has made himself king, and my lord the king does not even know about it. He has sacrificed many cattle, fattened calves, and sheep, and he has invited all the king's sons to attend the celebration. He also invited Abiathar, the priest, and Joab, the commander of the army, but he did not invite your servant Solomon. And now, my lord the king, all of Israel is waiting for you to announce who will become king after you. If you do not act, my son Solomon and I will be treated as criminals as soon as my lord the king has died." While she was still speaking with the king, Nathan the prophet arrived. The king's officials told him, "Nathan the prophet is here to see you." Nathan went in and bowed before the king with his face to the ground. Nathan asked, "My lord the king, have you decided that Adonijah will be the next king and that he will sit on your throne? Today he has sacrificed many cattle, fattened calves, and sheep, and he has invited all the king's sons to attend the celebration. He also invited the commanders of the army and Abiathar the priest. They are feasting and drinking with him and shouting, 'Long live King Adonijah.' But he did not invite me or Zadok the priest or Benaiah, your servant Solomon, or your servant Solomon. My lord the king, has my lord the king really done this without letting any of his officials know who should be the next king? David responded, call Bathsheba. So she came back in and stood before the king. And the king repeated his vow, as surely as Yahuwah lives, who has rescued me from every danger, your son Solomon will be the next king and will sit on my throne this very day, just as I have vowed to you before Yahuwah, the God of Israel. Then Bathsheba bowed down her face to the ground before the king and exclaimed, may my lord the king David live forever. Then King David ordered, call Zadok the priest, Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah, son of Jehoiada. When they came into the king's presence, the king said to him, take Solomon and my officials down to Gihon Spring. Solomon is to ride on my own mule. There, Zadok the priest, and Nathan the prophet are to anoint him king over Israel. Blow the ram's horn and shout, long live King Solomon. Then escort him back here, and he will sit on my throne. He will succeed me as king, for I have appointed him to be the ruler over Israel and Judah. So remember, Israel and Judah, there was kind of a split, but they're going to completely split in King Solomon's Sunday during the reign of Rehoboam and Jeroboam, right? So remember, Israel and Judah. Israel is the 10 tribes. Judah is the southern kingdom of Judah, which was mixed in with Benjamin. Levites were scattered within all of the other 11 tribes. But there was also some of Simeon down in Judah as well. So when you hear Israel and Judah, when we read about it, most of the time it's talking about, when it's just saying Israel, most of the time it's talking about all of us together. But when it calls out Israel and Judah side by side, it's referring to both of the sides of the family. It was a big family fight, a big family split, where Yahuwah is addressing both sides. Y'all knuckleheads and y'all knuckleheads too. We talking to all y'all. I'm gonna call you out by name. Amen, Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, replied. May Yahuwah, the God of my lord the king, decree that it happen. May Yahuwah be with Solomon as he has been with you, my lord the king, and may he make Solomon's reign even greater than yours. So Zadok the priest, Nathan the prophet, Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, and the king's bodyguard took Solomon down to Gihon Spring, with Solomon riding on King David's own mule. There Zadok the priest took a flask of olive oil from the sacred tent and anointed Solomon with the oil. Then they sounded the ram's horn, and all the people shouted, long live King Solomon. And all the people followed Solomon into Jerusalem, playing flutes and shouting for joy. The celebration was so joyous and noisy that the earth shook with the sound. Adonijah and his guests heard the celebrating and shouting just as they were finishing their banquet. When Joab heard the sound of the ram's horn, he asked, what's going on? Why is the city in such an uproar? And while he was still speaking, Jonathan, son of Abiathar, the priest, arrived. Come in, Adonijah said, for you are a good man. You must have good news. Not at all. Jonathan replied, our Lord King David has just declared Solomon king. The king sent him down to Gihon Spring with Zadok the priest, Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, protected by the king's bodyguard. They had him ride on the king's own mule, and Zadok and Nathan have anointed him at Gihon Spring as the new king. They have just returned, and the whole city is celebrating and rejoicing. That's what all the noise is about. What's more, Solomon is now sitting on the royal throne as king. And all the royal officials have gone to King David and congratulated him, saying, may your God make Solomon's fame even greater than your own, and may Solomon's reign be even greater than yours. Then the king bowed his head and worshiped as he lay in his bed, and he said, praise Yahuwah, the God of Israel, who today has chosen a successor to sit on my throne while I am still alive to see it. Then all of Adonijah's guests jumped up and panicked from the banquet table and quickly scattered. Adonijah was afraid of Solomon, so he rushed to the sacred tent and grabbed onto the horns of the altar. Word soon reached Solomon that Adonijah had seized the horns of the altar in fear, and he was pleading, let King Solomon swear today that he will not kill me. Boy, his assumption about to get his tail toe off. Solomon replied, if he proves himself to be loyal, Not a hair on his head will be touched. But if he makes trouble, he will die. So King Solomon summoned Adonijah, and they brought him down from the altar. He came and bowed respectfully before King Solomon, who dismissed him, saying, "Go on home." All right, y'all. Next chapter. 1 Kings chapter 2. David's final instructions to Solomon. As the time of King David's death approached, he gave this charge to his son Solomon: "I'm going where everyone on earth must go someday. Take courage and be a man. Observe the requirements of Yahuwah your God and follow all his ways. Keep the decrees, commands, regulations, and laws written in the law of Moses so that you will be successful in all you do and wherever you go. If you do this, then Yahuwah will keep his promise he made to me. He told me, if your descendants live as they should and follow me faithfully with all their heart, one of them will always sit on the throne of Israel." And there is something else. You know what Joab, the son of Zeruiah, did to me when he murdered my 2 army commanders, Abner, son of Ner, and Amasa, son of Jether. Isaiah! I'm sorry, y'all. Joshua, can you turn it down, please? Can you turn it down? Thank you. I know y'all hear, they just got loud for some reason. I'm not sure if it's what they're watching or if they turned it up. Okay. Back to verse 5. And there is something else. You know what Joab, the son of Zeruiah, did to me when he murdered my 2 army commanders, Abner, son of Ner, and Amasa, son of Jether. He pretended that it was an act of war, but it was done in a time of peace, staining his belt and sandals with innocent blood. Do what you think best, but don't let him grow old and go to his grave in peace. Be kind to the sons of Barzillai of Gilead. Make them permanent guests at your table, for they took care of me when I fled from your brother Absalom. And remember Shimei, son of Gera, the man from Bahurim in Benjamin. He cursed me with a terrible curse as I was fleeing to Mahanaim. When he came down to meet me at the Jordan River, I swore by Yahuwah that I would not kill him, but that oath does not make him innocent. You are a wise man, and you will know how to arrange a bloody death for him." Then David died and was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. David had reigned over Israel for 40 years, 7 of them in Hebron and 33 in Jerusalem. Solomon became king and sat on the throne of David his father, and his kingdom was firmly established. One day Adonijah, whose mother was Haggith, came to see Bathsheba, Solomon's mother. "Have you come with peaceful intentions?" she asked him. "Yes," he said, "I come in peace. In fact, I have a favor to ask of you." "What is it?" He replied, "As you know, the kingdom was rightfully mine. All Israel wanted me to be the next king, but now the tables were turned, and the kingdom went to my brother instead. For that is the way Yahuwah wanted it. So now I have just one favor to ask of you. Please don't turn me down." "What is it?" she asked. He replied, "Speak to King Solomon on my behalf, for I know he will do anything you request. Ask him to let me marry Abishag, the girl from Shunem." Now we all know what does Yahuwah Torah say about this? What does his instructions to his people say about this? Right? That would be uncovering his father's skirt, right? Seeing his father's nakedness. Although Abishag didn't have sex with David, right? She just took care of him in his old age, but still, she belonged to him, right? "All right," Bathsheba replied, "I will speak to the king for you." So Bathsheba went to King Solomon to speak on Adonijah's behalf. The king rose from his throne to meet her, and he bowed down before her. When he sat down on his throne again, the king ordered that a throne be brought for his mother, and she sat at his right hand. "I have one small request to make of you," she said. "I hope you won't turn me down." "What is it, my mother?" he asked. "You know I won't refuse you." "Then let your brother Adonijah marry Abishag, the girl from Shunem," she replied. "How can you possibly ask me to give Abishag to Adonijah?" King Solomon demanded. "You may as well ask me to give him the kingdom. You know that he is my older brother and that he has Abiathar the priest and Joab the son of Zeruiah on his side." Then King Solomon made a vow before Yahuwah. "May Yahuwah strike me and even kill me if Adonijah has not sealed his fate with this request. Yahuwah has confirmed me and placed me on the throne of my father David. He has established my dynasty as he promised. Surely as Yahuwah lives, Adonijah will die this very day. So King Solomon ordered Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, to execute him, and Adonijah was put to death. I can see what King Solomon saw, because had he got the captain of King David's army, and his priest on his side already, right? They went with him in these whole shenanigans to usurp King David's throne. But just think what would have happened if Solomon have let him marry Abishag, right? One of King David's concubines, but she couldn't really be labeled a concubine because he didn't have sex with her, right? But she belonged to him. He could have got some kind of little story started. Oh, well, King David's wife came to me and all these other things, and that could have spiraled out of control really quick. So he had to go, right? King Solomon saw through all his little plot, right? Then the king said to Abiathar the priest, "Go back to your home in Anathoth. You deserve to die, but I will not kill you now because you carried the ark of the sovereign Lord for David my father, and you shared all his hardships." So Solomon deposed Abiathar from his position as priest of Yahuwah, thereby fulfilling the prophecy Yahuwah had given at Shiloh concerning the descendants of Eli. Joab had not joined Absalom's early rebellion, but he had joined Adonijah's rebellion. So when Joab heard about Adonijah's death, he ran to the sacred tent of Yahuwah and grabbed onto the horns of the altar. When this was reported to King Solomon, he sent Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, to execute him. Benaiah went to the sacred tent of Yahuwah and said to Joab, "The king orders you to come out." But Joab answered, "No, I will die here." So Benaiah returned to the king and told him what Joab had said. "Do as he has said," the king replied. "Kill him there beside the altar and bury him. This will remove the guilt of Joab's senseless murders from me and from my father's family. Yahuwah will repay him for the murders of the two men who were more righteous and better than he. For my father knew nothing about the deaths of Abner, son of Ner, the commander of the army of Israel, and of Amasa, the son of Jether, commander of the army of Judah. May their blood be on Joab and his descendants forever, and may Yahuwah grant peace to David forever, his descendants, his dynasty, and his throne." So Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, returned to the sacred tent and killed Joab, and he was buried at his home in the wilderness. Then the king appointed Benaiah to command the army in place of Joab, and he installed Zadok the priest to take the place of Abiathar. The king then sent for Shimei and told him, "Build a house here in Jerusalem and live there, but don't step outside the city to go anywhere else. On that day you so much as cross the Kidron Valley, you will surely die, and your own blood will be on your own head." Shimei replied, "Your sentence is fair. I will do whatever my lord the king commands." So Shimei lived in Jerusalem for a long time. But 3 years later, two of Shimei's slaves ran away to King Achish, son of Maacah of Gath. When Shimei learned where they were, he saddled his donkey and went to Gath to search for them. When he found them, he brought them back to Jerusalem. Solomon heard that Shimei had left Jerusalem and had gone to Gath and returned. So the king sent for Shimei and demanded, "Didn't I make you swear by Yahuwah and warn you not to go anywhere else or you would surely die? And you replied, 'The sentence is fair. I will do as you say.' Then why haven't you kept your oath to Yahuwah and obeyed my command?" The king also said to Shimei, "You certainly remember all the wicked things you did to my father David. May Yahuwah now bring that evil on your own head. May I, King Solomon, receive Yahuwah's blessing, and may one of David's descendants always sit on this throne in the presence of Yahuwah." Then at the king's command, Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, took Shimei outside and killed him. So the kingdom was now firmly in Solomon's grip. All right, y'all. Last chapter for the day. 1 Kings chapter 3, Solomon asked for wisdom, right? And so if you missed, I guess it's been almost 2 weeks now. Through the Legends of the Jews, we actually got through there's like a whole few sections about King Solomon's reign, right? And you can go back through the previous videos and all the ones that King Solomon was in, I labeled those, like when he was building the kingdom and how the prince of the demons, Asmodeus, and all those was coming up to him and everything. I kind of labeled it as that. And I know some people that may come and look at my video titles, that's a gatekeeper. And I purposely did that for them. I purposely title my titles in a way to keep certain people out, right? Because certain people, and even of our own people who are not ready for some of that information, they just won't click on it anyway, simply by the way that their mind has trained to see everything as the devil, right? But those who are be like, y'all, hold on, we've been fooled, we've been scared into everything, right? But some people, it'll catch their attention and may take them in another direction. Oh, what's she talking about? See, I'm about to go in here and prove that she's doing this. It'll draw them in and they can see it, right? It'll calm their spirits down, and maybe Yahuwah can begin to teach them, right, in their own private time. So when I do titles, I know y'all not tripping here, but I know some people, they just don't click on it, or people run with titles and they never even click on the video and allow it to play, right? But anyway, all the deeper details about what we're about to go into with King Solomon, and because the Bible just kind of gives us the summary notes of what happened during his kingdom, whereas in the Legends of the Jews, it gives you a whole lot of detail about different instances, and even when the Queen of Sheba came and all the questions that she asked him, right? So that's always good. I've listened to it quite a few times, but go back and reread it, y'all, while we're going through it now in First Kings. Kind of read it together and kind of put the pieces together. Okay, so it's always good. Like I said, repetition is good. Solomon made an alliance with Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and married one of his daughters. He brought her to live in the city of David until he could finish building his palace and the temple of Yahuwah and the wall around the city. At that time, the people of Israel sacrificed their offerings at local places of worship for a temple honoring the name of Yahuwah. Reading it too fast. At that time, the people of Israel sacrificed their offerings at local places of worship, for a temple honoring the name of Yahuwah had not yet been built. Solomon loved Yahuwah and followed all the decrees of his father David, except that Solomon too offered sacrifices and burned incense at the local places of worship. The most important of these places of worship was at Gibeon, so the king went there and sacrificed 1,000 burnt offerings. That night, Yahuwah appeared to Solomon in a dream and said, "What do you want? Ask, and I will give it to you." Solomon replied, "You showed great and faithful love to your servant, my father David, because he was honest and true and faithful to you. And you have continued to show this great and faithful love to him today by giving him a son to sit on his throne. Now, O Yahuwah, my God, you have made me king instead of my father David, but I am like a little child who doesn't know his way around. And here I am in the midst of your own chosen people, a nation so great and numerous that they cannot be counted. Give me an understanding heart so that I can govern your people well and know the difference between right and wrong. For who by himself is able to govern this great people of yours?" Yahuwah was pleased that Solomon had asked for wisdom. Yahuwah replied, "Because you have asked for wisdom in governing my people with justice and have not asked for a long life or wealth or death of your enemies, I will give you what you have asked for. I will give you a wise and understanding heart, such as no one else has had or ever will have. And I will also give you what you did not ask for, riches and fame. No other king in all the world will be compared to you for the rest of your life. And if you follow me and obey my decrees and my commands as your father David did, I will give you a long life." Then Solomon woke up and realized it had been a dream. He returned to Jerusalem and stood before the ark of Yahuwah's covenant, where he sacrificed burnt offerings and peace offerings. Then he invited all his officials to the great banquet. And even though Yahuwah says that nobody will ever be as wise as King Solomon in the days to come, no, he's the only one that's ever been that wise. There was nobody before him, no one after him. But still, I wouldn't discourage anybody from praying that prayer, right? Especially if you find yourself in any positions of leadership where Yahuwah's people are present, right? Give me wisdom to lead your people, right? Because as we find out, you need wisdom, because some of Yahuwah's people can get quite unruly, right? And if we understand that Yahuwah has given us wisdom from the very beginning on how to deal with them, we won't find ourselves and catch ourselves in the trap. Remember, think about what happened. I can tell you from experience, think about what happened. And thank you, Aliyah, for reminding me of that. If we allow ourselves to be, think about Moses when he was transitioning Yahuwah's people out of Egypt, how they constantly kept murmuring and complaining and accusing him of a lot of stuff, right? We read over countless different ones where Yahuwah said, these are my people. He pretty much said, I can talk about them, but you can't. Why would you say this about them? And they were all punished for speaking against the unruly people. And they were right in what they said, right? But apparently Yahuwah takes issue with that, right? Yahuwah takes issue with us talking about one another, to one another. Like we should only go to him, right? And that has never been more clear than as we've been reading over the last couple weeks, seeing how Yahuwah chastises us, who puts our mouth. We didn't even talk about other people, other nations. He's talking about specifically his own people, our own brothers and sisters. We should not do that at all. We should, by all means, try to make peace. And if we're trying to make peace and peace, it doesn't seem like peace is coming from our efforts, then we need to go to the Most Holy and let him do it, right? So I learned that lesson. And sometimes the flesh want to, whoo, but it's like, oh, and I'm quickly reminded, oh, all right, Father, all right, bless your people. Then Solomon woke up and realized it had been a dream. He turned to Jerusalem and stood before the ark of Yahuwah's covenant, where he sacrificed burnt offerings and peace offerings. Then he invited all his officials to a great banquet. Sometime later, two prostitutes came to the king to have an argument settled. Please, my lord, one of them began. This woman and I live in the same house. I gave birth to a baby while she was with me in the house. 3 days later, this woman also had a baby. We were alone. There were only 2 of us in the house, but her baby died during the night when she rolled over on it. Then she got up in the night and took my son from beside me while I was asleep. She laid her dead child in my arms and took mine to sleep beside her. In the morning, when I tried to nurse my son, he was dead. But when I looked more closely in the morning light, I saw that it wasn't my son at all. Then the other woman interrupted. It certainly was your son, and the living child is mine. No, the first woman said, the living child is mine. The dead one is yours. So they argued back and forth before the king. Then the king said, let's get the facts straight. Both of you claim the living child is yours, and each says that the dead one belongs to the other. All right, bring me a sword. So the sword was brought to the king. Then he said, cut the living child in 2, give half to one woman and the half to the other half to the other. Then the woman who was the real mother of the living child, who loved him very much, cried out, oh no, my lord, give her the child. Please do not kill him. But the other woman said, all right, he will be neither mine nor yours. Divide him between us. Then the king said, do not kill the child, but give him to the woman who wants him to live, for she is his mother. When all of Israel heard the king's decision, the people were in awe of the king, for they saw the wisdom of Yahuwah had given him for rendering justice. All right, beautiful people. So that's our reading for today over here in the Old Testament. So let's go ahead and hop over here to the Legends of the Jews and pick up where we left off yesterday on page 476. Morning, Mom. Good morning, baby girl. Okay, so remember we left off yesterday. Did y'all go back and look? You may not, but the Sambayton River. I put a couple links in there where you can go on the Britannica and look it up, and it gives you some of the details about that river. Remember, it's a rock river, right? And so it's like a phenomenon. They say it's like a phenomenon on the earth that proves the principle of the Sabbath, right? So 6 days out the week, this river, which is full of rocks, it spits up rock. It's like a rolling rock river, and it's a very aggressive rolling rock river, right? So on 6 days of the week, this river just rolls and thunders with rocks, like you will see a normal water river, but this river is full of rocks, right? But 6 days of the week, it does that. But on the Sabbath day, it is completely calm. But to guard it on the Sabbath day, it is surrounded by crazy thunderstorms for about 3 miles wide. So nobody could even approach this, right? Right. As a matter of fact, I'm going to read that little portion again. It says, but on the Sabbath, the tumultuous river subsides into quiet. As a guard against trespassers on that day, a column of cloud stretches along the whole length of the river, and none can approach it. None can approach the Sambayton within 3 miles, right? And so we know that the sons of Moses they dwelled near the Sambayton, right? So you can go back to yesterday's video and hear that entire section read together, or you can go back and read it later if you already got the book. But look it up. That river is there, right? So, and it's like when we start finding out this information, we start looking for things in the earth. Is it according to this Sabbath we follow? I want to look. I can't say 100%, Tiffany, but if we are correct, and as Yahuwah has been teaching us how to get the time back right and follow his Sabbath, like he said, I would say, I can't say 100% because I haven't been there to observe the Sambayton River, right? I surely wish I can. I've been looking for, I can't really pinpoint its location, but we do know it's in Africa, right? But nobody can get to it because even on a Sabbath day, first of all, Yahuwah's people, you're supposed to be chilling at home, my G. Why you out your house, right? Sabbath day, we rest. So, and even if somebody did, you can't get near it because of the storms and the clouds that surround it, that are 3 miles wide all around, right? So the only time we would be able to see it is actually finding it during one of the 6 days of the week and just observing it. We had to camp out for like a whole week for real, right? And just watch it and count off the days. Probably maybe 2 weeks, I would say. Like if I had to do it, I would probably, okay, we're going on a camping trip, y'all. The Sambation, we think this is the Rolling Rock River, the Sambayton, right? So we would probably have to camp out for like, I don't know, I would say 2 weeks just to get a good feel, right? And while we're camping out, watching this Rolling Rock River, let's be prepared for the thunderstorms that's coming, right, on the Sabbath day. So clearly when the first thunderstorms show up and the cloud descends to cover it, then we would know that the Sabbath has begun. But I will also be paying attention to the moon cycles and what's happening in the sky as well, because it should line up perfectly. So if it's according to the Sabbath, we follow as Yahuwah has been teaching us, like we've been going back to it, like the book of Enoch teaches us, and we've been observing for the last few years and counting and doing, adjusting. When we found out, we made a mistake, we need to adjust, you know. I wouldn't say I'm 100%, but I will say if the book of Enoch is correct, and I truly believe it's correct because I've been physically out here observing nature since I've been reading through it, and it lines up with what the book of Enoch says, I would verify from my own personal research and study that, yes, the book of Enoch is correct because what this says, I see in the sky at this time and this time, and even in nature, right? So if it is, I would say yes, I would. But like I said, I cannot 100% say that because I have not been to the Sambayton River. So I can't put that 100% on it. But like if it lines up with the book of Enoch, I would say yes, it does. But that's where I stand on that until I actually go to the Sambayton. I don't know when it's going to be. All right, y'all. So this next section is on page 476. If you got the same size book I do. If it's a smaller book, the page number is a couple pages off simply because the pages are smaller. All right, so we're at the Ebed Melech portion. Okay. The sons of Moses were not the only ones to escape from under the heavy hand of Nebuchadnezzar. Still more miraculous was the deliverance of the pious Ethiopian Ebed Melech from the hands of the Babylonians. He was saved as a reward for rescuing Jeremiah when the prophet's life was jeopardized. On the day before the destruction of the temple, shortly before the enemy forced his way into the city, the Ethiopian was sent by the prophet Jeremiah, acting under divine instruction, to a certain place in front of the gates of the city to dole out refreshments to the poor from a little basket of figs he was to carry with him. Ebed Melech reached the spot, but the heat was so intense that he fell asleep under a tree, and there he slept for 66 years. Okay, we're going to keep reading. When he woke up, the figs were still fresh and juicy, but all the surroundings had so changed. He could not make out where he was. I'm sorry, calls coming in. I'm sorry. It threw my screen off when the call came in. I'm sorry. Pull it back up. Okay. When he woke up, the figs were still fresh and juicy, but all the surroundings had so changed. He could not make out where he was. His confusion increased when he entered the city to seek Jeremiah and found nothing as it had been. He accosted an old man and asked him the name of the place. He told that it was Jerusalem. Ebed-Melech cried out in amazement, "Where's Jeremiah? Where's Baruch? And where are all the people?" The old man was not a little astonished at these questions. How was it possible that one who had known Jeremiah and Jerusalem should be ignorant of the events that had passed 60 years before? In brief words, he told Ebed-Melech of the destruction of the temple and of the captivity of the people, but what he said found no credence with his auditor. Finally, Ebed-Melech realized that Yahuwah had performed a great miracle for him, so that he had been spared the sight of Israel's misfortune. While he was pouring out his heart in gratitude to Yahuwah, an eagle descended and led him to Baruch, who lived not far from the city. Thereupon Baruch received the command from Yahuwah to write to Jeremiah that the people should remove the strangers from the midst of them, and then Yahuwah would lead them back to Jerusalem. The letter written by Baruch and some of the figs that had retained their freshness for 66 years were carried to Babylonia by an eagle who had told Baruch that he had been sent to serve him as a messenger. The eagle set out on his journey. His first halting place was a dreary waste spot to which he knew Jeremiah and the people would come. It was the burial place of the Jews, which Nebuchadnezzar had given the prophet at his solicitation. When the eagle saw Jeremiah and the people approach with a funeral train, he cried out, "I have a message for thee, Jeremiah. Let all the people draw nigh to receive the good tidings." As a sign that his mission was true, the eagle touched the corpse and it came to life. Amidst tears, all the people cried unto Jeremiah, "Save us! What must we do to return to our land?" The eagle brought Jeremiah's answers to Baruch, and after the prophet had sent the Babylonian women away, he returned to Jerusalem with the people. Those who would not submit to the orders of Jeremiah relative to the heathen women were not permitted by the prophet to enter the holy city, and as they likewise were not permitted to return to Babylonia, they founded the city Samaria near Jerusalem. All right, the next section, the temple vessels. The task laid upon Jeremiah had been twofold. Besides giving him charge over the people in the land of their exile, Yahuwah had entrusted to him the care of the sanctuary and all it contained. The holy ark, the altar of incense, the holy tent were carried by an angel to the mount whence Moses, before his death, had viewed the land divinely assigned to Israel. There Jeremiah found a spacious place in which he concealed these sacred utensils. Some of his companions had gone with him to note the way of the cave, but they could not find it. When Jeremiah heard of their purpose, he censored them, for it was the wish of Yahuwah that the place of hiding should remain secret until the redemption, and then Yahuwah himself would make the hidden things visible. Now listen to what this just said, right? So all these things that they are uncovering, like I just found out yesterday, one of the ladies posted on the video that I did about with a crowning Yahoo Ben David Messiah, whatever. When we was talking about that, it was a lady in the comment section that had made a mention of somebody else, and I went to the thing, and he put a link in there about they had exhumed the body of Ramses, right, one of the ancient pharaohs. But this happened. This wasn't recent from what I looked up, but he had posted it like it was recent. But from what I found, this was years ago where they exhumed his body, right? Exhumed his body from the ground. But there are also a couple different people saying that, oh, they found the Ark of the Covenant and stuff. And I knew, and also if you go and you read the book of Maccabees, right? You got first Maccabees, second Maccabees, third Maccabees, and fourth Maccabees. But in the book of first Maccabees, it gives a little bit more detail about some of this destruction that happened, right? And Jeremiah himself hid the Ark of the Covenant, right? Nobody else saw what was hidden except for the prophet Jeremiah. And Yahuwah himself, he said, nobody will find this. This will be hidden unto the day of redemption, where Yahuwah himself will reveal it. So if anybody comes saying, we done found the Ark of the Covenant, y'all might want to, I don't know about that.
Mommy almost
right.
done.
I'm almost done, baby girl. Here you go. I can play with you in a second. So y'all might want to be.
Say?
I can play with you in a second. Okay. So y'all might want to be careful. All the stuff y'all hearing, it sound like, oh my gosh. But guys, first of all, y'all shouldn't be scared. If you're keeping Yahuwah's commands and doing what you're supposed to be doing here in the earth, continue with life as normal, right? Because when Yahuwah show up, you're gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay. So we shouldn't be the ones out here all scared and running around like chickens with our heads cut off, like we've been sinning all day, right? We're not in trouble. We've been doing what we're supposed to do. So keep on doing what you're supposed to do. And when the master comes home, we'll be rewarded, right? That's the way it is. That's how I look at it, right? So I'm just saying, when these things start coming out in the news and being floated through social media, don't let panic grab hold of you. Just be calm. You doing what you're supposed to be doing. You stand in your post. You doing that don't matter if you out in the public or if your post is being a good wife or a husband that works a job or whatever your post is, and you're faithful in it and you keep y'all's command, you ain't got nothing to worry about. You really don't. But I just wanted to say it. When things like this start coming up, remember all these things will be hidden until it's time to actually return Yahuwah's people to their land, right? Okay, just so you know. When Jeremiah heard of their purpose, he censured them, for it was the wish of Yahuwah that the place of hiding should remain a secret until the redemption, and then Yahuwah himself will make the hidden things visible. Even the temple vessels not concealed by Jeremiah were prevented from falling into the hands of the enemy. The gates of the temple sank into the earth, and the other parts of the utensils were hidden in a tower at Baghdad by the Levite Shamur and his friends. I'm sorry, and I meant to say this to him, which is another reason why we're reading through some of these things. As we get our hands on old scrolls and stuff and things that were not canonized, we have more information we can work with, and we can put the bigger pieces of the puzzle together so we can walk in truth, right? Yes. And this way, we're starting to see a bigger picture.
Beautiful?
Yes, I'm beautiful. You're beautiful too, baby girl. Okay. Even the temple vessels not concealed by Jeremiah were prevented from falling into the hands of the enemy. The gates of the temple sank into the earth, and other parts and utensils were hidden in a tower at Baghdad by the Levite Shimmer and his friends. Among these utensils was a 7-branched candlestick of pure gold, every branch set with 26 pearls, and beside the pearls 200 stones of inestimable worth. Furthermore, the tower at Baghdad was a hiding place for the 77 golden tables, for the gold with which the walls of the temple had been clothed within and without. The tables had been taken from paradise by Solomon, and in brilliance they outshone the sun and the moon, while the gold from the walls excelled in amounts and worth all the gold that had existed from the creation of the world until the destruction of the temple. The jewels, pearls, gold, and silver, and precious gems, which David and Solomon had intended for the temple, were discovered by the scribe Hilkiah, and he delivered them to the angel Shamshiel, who in turn deposited the treasure in Borsippa. The sacred musical instruments were taken charge of and hidden by Baruch and Zedekiah until the event of the Messiah, who will reveal all treasures. In his time, a streak will break forth from under the place of the Holy of Holies and flow through the lands to the Euphrates, and as it flows, it will uncover all the treasures buried in the earth. Where we at? Okay, we're only at 49 minutes. We're going to read this next section about Baruch. Ooh, we might get to the tombs of Baruch and Ezekiel. Let me keep reading. Okay. At the time of the destruction of the temple, one of the prominent figures was Baruch, the faithful attendant of Jeremiah. Yahuwah commanded him to leave the city one day before the enemy was to enter it, in order that his presence might not render it impregnable. On the following day, he and all the other pious men, having abandoned Jerusalem, he saw from a distance how the angels descended and set fire to the city walls and concealed the sacred vessels of the temple. At first, his mourning over the misfortunes of Jerusalem and the people knew no bounds. But he was in a measure consoled at the end of a 7 days fast, when Yahuwah made known to him what the day of reckoning would come for the heathen too. When Yahuwah made known to him that the day of reckoning would come for the heathen too. Other divine visions were vouchsafed him. The whole future of mankind was unrolled before his eyes, especially the history of Israel, and he learned that the coming of the Messiah would put an end to all sorrow and all misery and usher in the reign of peace and joy among men. As for him, he would be removed from the earth, he was told, but not through death, and only in order to be kept safe against the coming of the end of all time. Thus consoled, Baruch addressed an admonition to the people left in Palestine and wrote 2 letters of the same tenor to the exiles, one to the 9 tribes and a half, the other to the 2 tribes and a half. The letter to the 9 tribes and a half of the captivity was carried to them by an eagle. 5 years after the great catastrophe, he composed a book in Babylon which contained penitential prayers and hymns of consolation, exhorting Israel and urging the people to return to Yahuwah and his law. This book Baruch read to King Jeconiah and the whole people on that day of prayer and penitence. On the same occasion, a collection was taken up among the people, and the funds thus secured, together with the silver of the temple vessels, made by the order of Zedekiah after Jeconiah had been carried away captive, were sent to Jerusalem, and the request that the high priest Jehoiakim and the people should apply the money to the sacrificial service and to prayers for the life of King Nebuchadnezzar and his son Belshazzar. Thus they might ensure peace and happiness under Babylonian rule. Above all, they were to supplicate Yahuwah to turn away his wrath from his people. Baruch sent this book also to the residents of Jerusalem, and they read it in the temple on distinguished days and recited the prayers it contains. Baruch is one of the few mortals who have had privilege to visit paradise and know its secrets. An angel of Yahuwah appeared to him while he was lamenting over the destruction of Jerusalem and took him to the 7 heavens, to the place of judgment where the doom of the godless is pronounced, and to the abodes of the blessed. He was still among the living at the time in which Cyrus permitted the Hebrews to return to Palestine, but on account of his advanced age, he could not avail himself of the permission. So long as he was alive, his disciple Ezra remained with him in Babylonia, for a study of the law is more important than the building of the temple. It was only after the death of Baruch that he decided to gather together the exiles who desired to return to the Holy Land and build the temple in Jerusalem. All right, y'all, with the next section. The tombs of Baruch and Ezekiel. The piety of Baruch and the great favor he enjoyed with Yahuwah were made known to later generations many years after his death through the marvelous occurrences connected with his tomb. Once a Babylonian prince commanded a Hebrew, Rabbi Solomon by name, to show him the grave of Ezekiel, concerning which he had heard many remarkable tales. The Hebrew advised the prince first to enter the tomb of Baruch, which adjoined to that of Ezekiel. Having succeeded in this, he might attempt the same with the tomb of Ezekiel, the teacher of Baruch. In the presence of his grandees and his people, the prince tried to open the grave of Baruch, but his efforts were fruitless. Whoever touched it was at once stricken dead. An old Arab advised the prince to call upon the Hebrews to gain interest for him, seeing that Baruch had been a Hebrew and his books were still being studied by the Hebrews. The Hebrews prepared themselves by fasts, prayers, penitence, and almsgiving, and they succeeded in opening the grave without a mishap. Baruch was found lying on a marble bier, and the appearance of the corpse was as though he had only then passed away. The prince ordered the bier to be brought to the city and the body to be entombed there. He thought it was not seemly that Ezekiel and Baruch should rest in the same grave. But the bearers found it impossible to remove the bier more than 2,000 ells from the original grave. Not even with the help of numerous draught animals could it be urged a single step further. Following the advice of Rabbi Solomon, the prince resolved to enter the bier on the spot they had reached and also to erect an academy there. These miraculous happenings induced the prince to go to Mecca. There he became convinced of the falseness of Mohammedanism. I think I said that wrong. Mohammedanism, of those who worship Muhammad, y'all. Okay, there he became convinced of the falseness of Mohammedanism, of which he had hitherto been an adherent, and he converted to Hebrew, he and his whole court. Near the grave of Baruch, there grows a species of grass whose leaves are covered with gold dust. As the sheen of the gold is not readily noticeable by day, the people seek out the place at night, mark the very spot on which the grass grows, and return by day and gather it. Not less famous is the tomb of Ezekiel, at a distance of 2,000 ells from Baruch's. It is overarched by a beautiful mausoleum erected by King Jeconiah after evil Merodach had released him from captivity. The mausoleum existed down The mausoleum existed down to the Middle Ages, and it bore on its walls the names of the 35,000 Hebrews who assisted Jeconiah in erecting the monument. It was the scene of many miracles. When great crowds of people journeyed thither to pay reverence to the memory of the prophet, the little low gate in the wall surrounding the grave enlarged in width and height to admit all who desired to enter. Once a prince vowed to give a cult to the grave of the prophet, but his mare, let me read that again. Once a prince vowed to give a cult to the grave of the prophet, if but his mare, which had been sterile, would bear one. When his wish was fulfilled, however, he did not keep his promise, but the filly ran a distance equal to a 4 days' journey to the tomb, and his owner could not recover it until he deposited his value in silver upon the grace. When the people went on long journeys, they were in a habit of carrying their treasures to the grave of the prophet and beseeching him to let none but the rightful heirs remove them thence. The prophet always granted their petition. Once, when an attempt was made to take some books from the grave of Ezekiel, the ravager suddenly became sick and blind. For a time, a pillar of fire, visible at a great distance, rose above the grave of the prophet, but it disappeared in consequence of the unseemly conduct of the pilgrims who resorted thither. Not far from the grave of Ezekiel was the grave of Barazak, who once appeared to a rich Hebrew in a dream. He spoke, I am Barazak. I said it wrong. Barazak. I am Barazak, one of the princes who were led into captivity with Jeremiah. I am one of the just. If thou wilt erect a handsome mausoleum for me, thou wilt be blessed with progeny. The Hebrew did as he had been bidden, and he who had been childless shortly thereafter became a father. And we are going to pause right there. So clearly, there were a bunch of riches that had been buried with Ezekiel that had been stored in his tomb, whereby a lot of people knew this. Just think about it. They're going like, look, we're going to see if we can get them books out of his tomb. So it's probably opening like not in the grave, something that they could walk into clearly, right? So a lot of people like, we need them books he got. Let's see if we can get them. And they stand out there praying, Father, if it's your will, if I can take them, let me be able to take them. Yes.
Jay's coming over.
I don't know. I need to call his dad.
You call them now.
I'll call him in a second. I'll call Elijah in a minute. You know, so that's what, from as I was reading it, that's what they was doing, right? And although they probably saying, "Oh, Ezekiel, let us come in here and get this because we need it," right? Some people tried to take that stuff from his tomb to do wicked things with it. The people that Yahuwah didn't want to have it, they weren't able to get it. But those Yahuwah found worthy to be able to take the scrolls from his tomb were able to go in and get it unharmed. All right, beautiful people. So tomorrow we'll pick up with Daniel. Oh, we're going to pick up with Daniel. I'll leave my comments for that tomorrow. So we ended on page 478 there. We read 1 Kings 1, 2, and 3, and we read the Legends of the Jews, page 476 to page 478. Y'all, it is Saturday, April the 10th, 2021, day 124 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 793. Hold on 1 second, baby girl. I'm almost done. Remember, that is without the Sabbath days counted in, right? So we rest on the Sabbath days. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and pull up the blessing. All right. Remember, the blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And y'all have to be careful. I mean, not careful. I have to be careful. Y'all please bear with me while I'm getting my hand signals under control. Because I know it throws some people off. I talk with my hands a lot, and I didn't realize some of the things I was doing, like this right here in particularly, because I do like this, kind of like to make a point, but apparently people, like, they get thrown off and think I'm throwing up sixes, right? And it's really a lot of people that really believe that about me. And it really did, and be honest, because some of y'all probably read the comments, it really made me feel some type of way. So I'm like, okay, Father, help me get my hand signals under control. So when I catch myself, I just kind of ball my hands up, because I don't want to, you know, what's the word? I don't want to, what's the word I want to use? I don't want to, like, cause people to get off on what they should be focusing on by something that throws people off track, that aren't able to focus their attention on what they should be focusing it on, right? Not that you shouldn't be aware of what's going on around you, because it is some people out there that they play them Jedi mind tricks on you, right? It's like that sleight of hand. They get your eyes looking one place while they're doing something over here. I'm not doing that. I just use my hands a lot, and I didn't realize that I was apparently throwing up the sixes. I ain't trying to throw up the sixes, y'all. I'm really not. And I ain't trying to curse nobody. Oh my gosh. I would do nothing but bless you who is people, right? Okay. So the blessing, which we do every day, is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And remember, the first 21 verses is the Nazirite vow. A man or a woman can take the Nazirite vow, and everybody should consider it. Not that you have to, but you should consider it. Consider setting yourself aside for a period of time, and all that you choose, it's what you choose. It's your choice. Is Yahuwah with that vow, he leaves everything to you. How long you want to do it, exactly what you want to do during this vow. It should be your own choice on what you want to do. He just gives a couple regulations, right? Nazirites should abstain from alcohol, and abstain from anything from the grapevine, juicy or dry, raisins, grapes. You're not to put scissors to your head. You can't cut your hair or whatever. So if you decide to take it, shave it off. I ain't say you got to shave your head, but I'm just saying, do a style where you know it's low maintenance, where you can still take care of it, right? Because you can't put scissors to it, you know. So you got to think about all of those things. What you're going to do, how you're going to do it, especially if you always somebody that's primping in front of the mirror, you getting your hair done all the time. You got to be careful, because your hairstylist might want to trim a little bit of the ends. And if you're not paying attention, oh, shoot, scissors to your hair, vow has been broken, right? So you got to think about those things in detail thoroughly, right? And also you cannot go near a dead body, right? Because you're set apart, holy, and clean. Any of those things will cause you to break your vow. And if your vow is broken ignorantly, on purpose, or somebody else broke it by mistake, you weren't paying attention, went to get your hair done, said something like, she ain't tell you, she just doing her job, you know, vow has been broken, and you have to start over. Yahuwah said when you start over, you have to start the entire vow over. So if you took a 7-year vow to be a Nazarite and you was in year 6, maybe somebody died and touched the body, whatever, or the hairdresser snip your hair by mistake and you ain't let them know, and you didn't let your hairdresser know that you're not to put any scissors to your hair or whatever, you have to start all the way back over day 1 of year 1, because Yahuwah he said none of this will count, right? And what I notice is, I'm gonna tell you, I noticed while doing that vow, it causes you to be more aware of your daily actions. It really does. And how you operate, how you move, the foods you touch, people who you let do your hair. You have to sometimes make, okay, does this hairstyle work for me while I'm doing this? It causes you to be more observant to your surroundings, how you interact, how you even feed yourself, what you drink. It to me, it brings another level of accountability to your life, whereby you're always being mindful and aware of everything going on that's seen and things that are unseen, right? Yeah, so think about it. It's not a vow that should be taken lightly. It's really not. Okay, so I'm going to read the blessing. I'll check the comment section. Numbers chapter 6, verse 22 through 27. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. What vow? The Nazarite vow, Veronica. That's what I was just speaking about. The Nazarite vow is in Numbers chapter 6. It's the first 21 verses. Morning kindness matters. I'm just saying that. I know that was a while ago. Are we going to finally hear what the Most High unsealed in the book of Daniel to what's coming in our times? Oh, you know what? I hope so. I hope so. As I'm looking through stuff, I think a part of that unsealing is some of the older manuscripts it's been here for a while, but true Israel hasn't necessarily had access to them. Like Legends of the Jews, remember? Okay, I'll do it again. And I always put it in the description box. This right here, we know that this is a Roman on the front of the book, right? So even this right here, you have to, okay. There are things. Okay, so when real Israel was scattered, not only were we scattered, but all of our stuff was scattered with us. Our scrolls, everything was scattered to the four corners. So all the nations have bits and pieces of what belongs to us, right? And what they have done. Remember how we talk about the word destroyed, how it says Babylon is going to be destroyed? And how destruction is kind of like twofold. It happens in different ways. It's not always just boom, we're going to blow you up like Sodom and Gomorrah. I'm going to destroy this place. But people and places are also destroyed by coming in and changing names and setting up your stuff. We changing names of the streets, whereby your name is no longer spoken. And now there is a new name. So as the generation and as time passes by, the older, the original has been forgotten, and everybody think now what it's been replaced with is actually the truth, right? And so that's how things and places can be destroyed, right? By not just by covering it up. So actually destroying, boom, complete destruction, but also we're using craftiness to cover up the truth, right? And you push a lie long enough, a lot of people tend to believe it if they're not diligent in going to do their own research and study, right? And so a part of the unsealing, answer your question, a part of the unsealing of the books of what Yahuwah told Daniel to seal up into our time, I believe is also the uncovering of some of the truth that has been hidden and renamed with other things, right? We know that the Jews weren't called the Jews, they were called the Hebrews. So even now, if you go call, if they're the Jewish people, they call themselves Jews. They're European converts. They refer to the black people as Hebrews, but they refer to themselves as Jews. Now, let me tell you something. when you look at them, you know, Yahuwah loves them too, right? He gonna deal with them how he gonna deal with them. But in the process of our scattering and our destruction, with our manuals and teachings and prophecies that been passed through our family, as that has been scattered, they've taken it, they've renamed it, they've added some things, they've taken some things away, they've done all manner of stuff to it. What's happening is, as we're coming across these things, and that's why we kind of got to get over that whole fear thing that we learned in the church. And I'll say it coming from the church because that's where I came out of, right? I can't tell you about those who have been in like worshiping Muhammad or different or Buddha or whatever, but our people are there too, and they're also waking up, but they're bringing their experience and their perspective from where they have been scattered, right? So as we wake up, what's happening is, as we've been scattered in these different nations and in these different religions, as Yahuwah is filling us with his spirit, right? He's beginning to open our eyes, and we're there, and we're not, I'm sorry, y'all, and we're there, and we're able to realize, first of all, ain't no boogeyman at the door, and the boogeyman that they done put on the door, it's a gatekeeper, right? It's a gatekeeper that keeps certain people out that's too scared to venture in to see what the truth is, right? But blessed be the most holy that he's removed some of that scariness from out of me, where I'm at least going to go open the book and let me see if this information is valid. Okay, I done got past the cover. Whew. That was the biggest thing, getting past the cover, thinking there's a bunch of spells and stuff here. Okay, now as I go to wait a minute, hold on, wait, what? And what Yahuwah begins to do, the truth will illuminate itself to you out of all of the garbage that it's been surrounded by, right? And that's when you get to that point, Yahuwah should have been teaching you how to decipher truth from error, right? How to pick out the meat from the bones and eat only the meat. And that is what you have to do while going and reclaiming some of our history and our books that have been scattered and been given different titles. It's a lot of different people that's coming across different manuscripts. I'm sharing with y'all the ones I come across, and some of the ones that we're actually reading out loud, because some people, they don't have time to read. They're really busy. You know, this is my watch, and I'm going to read it on my watch. If you have time to listen to it, listen to it. If you don't like the sound of my voice, I'll try and find, like with this, there is a couple of different people who read this. I found the clearest one and the voice that I could stand to listen to, and that's the one I shared in the comment section all while we read this. So if you go to the description box, you will see you can get the PDF and download it. You can listen to it on YouTube, and it has it sectioned out in each section according to the chapters of the book. So whereby if you don't want to listen to it, you can just jump right to the section that you want to listen to. It's all that. I try to give y'all good resources where y'all can go back and check out the meat and check into it and see some of this stuff with your own eyes. If you don't want to do that, you want your own personal copy, I gave you the link that I purchased my copy from, right? I'm not getting paid from any of this stuff. I simply gave you a link. You know, I don't get paid for any of this stuff. I'm sharing with you all good things that Yahuwah has shared with me, right? Now, some things I don't necessarily agree with. That's why I'm learning. If I come across something I don't necessarily agree with this yet, y'all know what this is. So I ain't read through all of this, but here. This is what I know is here, and this I have verified. You can further verify. Let me know what you come up with, right? And so that's that. But yeah, I believe a part of that unveiling, unsealing is us reclaiming some of our history that's there in plain sight, that's just been hidden in plain sight. Is that, but also some supernatural things that have been completely destroyed. They've completely burned up. Things that would look like we'd never get access to, like things that they got under lock and key under the Vatican. Like they got all this stuff. You know, we may never get that. Some things he may do to us like he did with the prophet Ezra. He has to reveal it word for word to you, right? When one of the wicked kings burned up some of the scrolls, like burned it up in front of their face, Ezra, Yahuwah said, you go pray and you go fast. He said, and I'm going to reveal to you what was in those scrolls. He went and he prayed and he fasted, and he said, and Yahuwah told him, he said, get you five scribes who are filled with my spirit and bring them with you. And so as Yahuwah revealed it to him during his fast, Ezekiel spoke it and the scribes wrote and they restored what was done. I believe that it happened today, you know, so I'm like, oh my gosh, they got our stuff. I'm not I'm not one of them type of ones because I believe I have the faith that if we never get our hands on it, that Yahuwah can reveal it to us. If we're willing to do what it takes to get the supernatural things, Yahuwah would give it to us. So I mean, it's a lot of times we got to add some fasting on top of our prayer. So make fasting. You should just make it a part of your normal life, right? Because a lot of answers come when you add fasting to your prayers, and that's from personal experience. You're welcome, Veronica. Okay. Have I decided on the next book I will be reading? I've been thinking about that. I'm like, all right, Father, what we going into next? To read along. Yes, baby girl.
You say you're done.
I am. Yeah, my boss is calling for me. Y'all, I have not yet, but I am going to share a resource, Fossilized Customs. I was thinking about that. And I was actually standing in my kitchen yesterday, and you spoke it to me again, Fossilized Customs. And then I go to pick up my phone a few minutes later, and my mom texted me. She said, look what I found. And lo and behold, she found somebody reading Fossilized Customs. I hadn't said anything to my mom. I was like, Father, clearly that is a confirmation that I should share that with the people. So I'm going to share that. I'm sorry, y'all. So click on the link. I'll put it in the description box, and I'll pin it in the comment section so you can go get it. And I'll find the links where you can look at it online, the PDF. You can also get it from Amazon, and you can also just listen to it now, right? And what Fossilized Customs is it's a book written by Lou White, and he goes through unveiling all the truth on things that have been covered up on Hebrew history, right? And he tells you the origins of different things, how they change the weeks and give them names, and how each day of the week actually represent a God that they worship. All of these things, he uncovers all that. He even teaches you what an Asherah pole is, right? We all know what an Asherah pole is. Remember how they worship Asherah poles? We hear it constantly. You will say they're worshiping these things. Jeremiah called it out. You bring it into your house and you're decorating it. An Asherah pole is what we would call today a Christmas tree, right? All of these things. This book is so good. I learned so much from this book in my earlier years maybe I'm not sure if y'all wants me to read that out loud, but I definitely know I'm supposed to give it to you. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to read it out loud. I also thought about the Roots books. Thought about that too. The Black Root Science. That's another book. It's history. That the title of it may throw people off. Black Root Science, but I put it also in the description box of my last few videos. Some people may click on it, see the cover. Oh my gosh, no, what is she into? It's a gatekeeper, y'all. I didn't title it, but it will keep certain people out who are not ready for it. People who are just super spooky spiritual about everything and always blaming everything on the devil. It's going to keep those type of people out. That's why I take great strides in trying to explain to you some of this stuff, right? So I'll make sure that's in there so you can take a look at it. What it does is called Black Root Science, not roots like witchcraft, but roots like our ancient roots and where we come from, the type of people we were. It's given the ancient history of Black people, right? And it's one of the details, even from creation, all of this stuff, right? And it tells you who the true people, true children of Israel is, and who. And in the book it says Yahweh, but it's Yahuwah, right? It's although people pronounce it Yahweh. I ain't gonna get on people for their mispronunciation, but as I study Yahweh, the W is actually, it shouldn't be a W. Listen, what is a W? A W is a double U. Two U's. The letter U is a double U. The U makes the oo sound. Yahu. Or you hear some people say Yahu, trying to enunciate it. But in the English language, when you got the bastardized language, and it replaces things and it gives improper pronunciations to things, but I'm not gonna get on anybody because they're saying Yahuwah. I mean Yahweh, because okay, I get it. I know who you're talking about, right? They just don't understand the proper etymology of it and the proper pronunciation of it. But if you go back, even if you have electronic Bible where you see Yahuwah said, my name is Yahuwah forever, but in the KJV it says Yahweh. When Moses asked, okay, I'm going to go to your people, what am I going to tell them? Who sent me? He said, tell them I am that I am. He said, oh, well, okay. Can you be a little more specific? He said, tell them my name. And the KJV says, my name is Yahweh forever, but it's actually Yahuwah, right? So, but also Lou White has, I believe it's broken down in that book as well. But you can go back if you have any kind of Bible resource and you know how to use it. You can track it back, and you will see that that is true. So everybody's not in the same place, but don't fight people because they're not as advanced as you are, right? Everybody's learning, right? So we may, because this is really good stuff. Everybody might not stay with us while we read Black Root Science, but I don't see why they shouldn't, because we just learn about the history of our people from another perspective, right? It's just really good. You're right. Was it Faria? I learned you can call him whatever he tells you to call him. You absolutely can. I agree with that 100% because I call him the most holy. When he is real to you, you can call him, and not say you can call, but y'all get what I'm saying. You can't call him anything you want to call him, but you can call him anything your heart desires to call him because you love him. Just like you have pet names for your spouse or your children, baby girl or honey bun, sweetie. I mean, you because you're in a relationship, Yeah, we get that. I agree 100% with you on that. But y'all, we gotta go. My daughter, she said my time is up. So we'll go ahead and get out of here now. See y'all Monday morning. Remember, we are not here tomorrow because we are resting because of the Sabbath. And because y'all that don't know, I know some people wait, Sunday, you celebrate Sunday Sabbath? No. Let me just decide we're keeping the Sabbath by the moon cycle, lining it up according to what the book of Enoch teaches us, right? And I know people have to grow at their own pace. And you come out of the church doing Sunday, then you transition into the Hebrew roots, and you're learning what the Jews have taught you Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. Okay, you keep that. Yahuwah ain't gonna kill you if you do, whatever. As long as you're on the track trying to get back to him, Yahuwah has more grace with us than what our own people do. And I'm glad that my soul is entrusted to him and not other people, So that's what we're doing. Everybody doesn't agree, but that's okay, but what we find out is, and the reason. All right, y'all. We just keeping the commands as we learn. So let me go, because she's gonna start getting louder, right? So we're keeping it according to the moon cycle because we'll realize. Hold on 1 second. We'll realize that the moon, if we understand Enoch and how he teaches us about the sun and the moon, that we'll understand that the moon phases also falls on Sabbaths. So if you understand the moon phases and what phase it is, you can actually tell which Sabbath we're at the first week, the second week, the third week, or the fourth week, and going into the new moon. It took me 3 years to study it and get it and pinpoint it and track it. I gotta go, y'all. But y'all get what I'm saying. I'll probably finish this conversation. All right, I love y'all. Let me go. She gonna get Titus. Peace, man. All right, y'all. I love y'all. I see y'all Monday morning, bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Enjoy your Sabbath. Get some rest, y'all. Love y'all. Peace.
Mommy.
Yes, baby girl.
Look. Mommy, look.
Yes.
Look.